This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, a.k.a. the Python Hyena. And folks, I got a wonderful guest this evening. He was on last year. Actually, last year he was on May 20th, and here we are May 18th, almost to the day. I have the wonderful Mike Gormley back with us. How you do, Mike?
I'm doing well. I didn't realize we were right on the anniversary like that.
Yeah, I always post the interviews on Facebook on their anniversaries as well. And tomorrow I'll be posting my Alfred Hitchcock tribute interview I did last year with his granddaughter. And then I got yours coming out for the 20th. And then Stefan Arngrim, who, of course, Lisa Langlois knows from class of 1984, his was the 21st.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, almost on the day.
Amazing, I didn't know that.
Yep. No, I always, I got them all dated, so I know when everything's come out. So, yeah, perfect. So how are things where you are? It's like 8 o'clock here, so it must be 4 where you are.
It's 4 o'clock in Los Angeles, and it's a sunny day as usual. Not as usual. It was a pretty wet winter, thank goodness. But, yeah, sunny day, and while it's nice, it's in like 75, where I'm told we're getting a heat wave this weekend. It'll be hitting the 80s and 90s. And then it'll go back down again because it doesn't really get hot here on a regular basis until August, late July, August, September. Those are the hot months in L.A.
We gotten a lot of rain here, buckets of rain. Our winter was not fun. Huh?
We finally did. The drought has been weakened. I don't know if the drought's officially over, but we certainly have. This past winter we got a lot of water. You can't win though. You get a lot of water, then you eventually get mudslides, and then you get forest fires because the mudslides wiped out the foliage. Or no, it's the other way around. We get the fires during the summer. We get rain in the winter, and then the mudslides, because the foliage has been wiped away. So it's you can't win around here. But I happen to live in an area that, knock on wood, doesn't get hit with anything except periodic earthquakes. But there's no slides or floods or anything to deal with.
Yeah, probably our worst is our winters. I know we had one really bad week back in February. I actually got done an interview, and it was like midnight when I got out of here, and I walked outside, and it was snowing hard. It took me like 5 minutes to get out of the parking lot, and by the time I got home, I got up the next morning, and snow was clear up to the door handles on my car.
Oh my gosh!
That's how bad it was. It was not pretty. That was the most.
Well, as you know, I grew up in Ottawa, so I remember days like that, but. Maybe it's the distance mentally as well as physically, but I kind of remember those days fondly.
Fondly? I don't remember them fondly.
Yeah, I guess it's just because I haven't had to deal with them for a long time. I've been in L.A. since 1978, so I haven't had to deal with winters for quite a while, unless I chose to do so. And so maybe my memory, is being kind. But I do remember on a few occasions, not many, but a few occasions that school would be closed because of snow. And I remember one occasion where I would walk to school, and I got to school to find out school was closed. So I actually made it on that day, and they told me to go home. But yeah, it didn't happen that often, but it did occur. But I was mainly, a teenager, early 20s in Ottawa, so I wasn't driving around. And I was going to California and back to Ottawa. So I kind of chose my winter days, which ones I had to put up with.
You were saying to me before we started talking, recorded here, that you mentioned the Bangles, that you was on the set for Cyndi Lauper's Goonies video. Now, how did that happen?
Well, we were on the set for Goonies, not the video.
Okay.
The video was done, I think, in New York, but we were on the actual Goonies set, and we live in L.A. and we knew somebody. I don't remember exactly how it happened. They were not yet the multi-million selling artists they became. They were on their way, but they had not yet really hit that big time yet, and. But we got invited over by somebody to the actual set, and I remember running through that maze of. They were supposed to be. There were all these tunnels and everything else. I remember I haven't seen a movie for a long time, but anyway, we were there and we met some of the. There were some wrestlers in that movie, and there was.
Yeah, but the wrestlers were in the Goonies video with Cyndi Lauper.
Well, they were on the set. Maybe they were shooting a video and I didn't realize it. I don't remember it that way. I remember being on the Goonies. Maybe that's why we were there. Certainly weren't in the video or anything, but we met several of the big time wrestlers at that time. They were just hanging out, waiting to do their scene. But I thought it was for the movie, so maybe it was for the video and I didn't realize it.
Well, they used the sets for the video as well, so. What wrestlers did you meet? You met Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
I like him.
Well, he wore a kilt, right?
Yep.
Okay, so he was there, but I can't remember. There were a couple of others, and they were real big names.
The Iron Sheik?
I don't know. I don't follow, and didn't at that time follow wrestling, which lets you know how famous he was, because I knew who he was, and yet I wasn't a follower of the sport or whatever it is. I remember the Goonies set though. I remember going through all of it. It was very, very interesting, very kind of surreal.
Did you meet Cyndi Lauper?
No, we met Cyndi Lauper before because the Bangles. She was great. She when the Bangles started having success, but had not yet sold millions. But they'd had a number 2 song, Manic Monday.
Okay, yeah.
And so she brought them on tour with her, and they opened for her for a rather extensive American tour. And so we knew her from that. And she was very, very cool. Helped us a lot in those days, and probably had a lot to do with the subsequent success. Because artists can have number 1 and number 2 records and never be heard from again. The Bangles ended up with 3 or 4 number 1 records, so it had a lot to do with people like Cyndi, who just respected them and liked their music, but also kind of took care of them, if you will.
I like the Bangles. I play them on my show too, and even some of their non-hits, like "Some Dreams Come True." I like that song a lot. "Be With You," of course, was a video song. I like that, and "Watching the Sky." That was a nice one as well. "Eternal Flame." That was a great album. I've got that album on CD. I love that album.
Yeah, it's a good album. My favorite Bangles tune. It was actually not written by them, and it's "Going Down to Liverpool."
Okay.
That's my favorite Bangles song, and it's actually sung by the drummer Debbie. And we did a video. We did a video of that with Spock from Star Trek.
Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He played a chauffeur. And the band was in the back seat, and Liverpool would come on, and they were listening to it and singing along with it. And then he reaches over and turns off the radio because he's, this older chauffeur guy. And I think it's Vicky gives him this dirty look and leans over and turns it right back on again. And I remember thinking at the time, kind of unique that in the middle of a video, we turned off the sound even if it was for 5 or 10 seconds. But that went really well. I love that song. their version of it. Katrina and the Waves did it originally, I believe, or it was written by the guy from Katrina and the Waves. But anyway, good song. I like it.
The drummer for the Bangles, that's a blonde girl, right?
Well, the drummer and the guitar player are sisters. They're both, at least in those days, were blonde.
Because I know the drummer also sang "Be With You" as well.
Yeah, she sang some. They all sang. All four of them sang, and that was one of the reasons my partner and I at the time signed them. Because when we signed them, they didn't even have that name, and they actually were changing bass players, and they weren't really settled down. But we signed them for management because of their great harmony, great vocals. We used to. David Kahn, who produced their album, both the first and second album, would have them sing in the studio, and he'd have them sing like a Beatles song or a Mamas and Papas song or a portion of it. And they'd say, "Why'd you have us do that?" And he would just say, "Because I just wanted to hear you sing it." Their harmonies were so fantastic.
Yeah, I think the Bangles are great. I still listen to them. I still enjoy them. But what's that?
I just say, yeah, they still play, but not frequently. I ran into Vicky from the Bangles about a month ago. There was a great charity show taking place here in L.A. with Jackson Browne. It was the music of the band. And Garth Hudson, actually from the band, was there, and he performed. Jackson Browne came out, and a bunch of L.A. And not even L.A. based artists came out over the course of the evening. Ian Matthews was there, and I can't remember everybody, but Vicky was there performing, and so I saw her backstage and got a nice warm hug. It was good to see her. It had been a while.
You know, last time I had you on here, I was quizzing you on some Canadian bands and artists and whatnot. And it's strange because after the interview, something had happened with a band that I couldn't believe I didn't ask you about, because their lead singer, of course, had some health problems. And I'm talking about the Tragically Hip.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a big screen set up downtown where their concert, that final concert was being performed, and it was done by satellite, and people were able to watch it on this big screen, and boy, oh boy, was it ever packed down there.
Well, we did the same thing in L.A. It wasn't an outdoor screen; it was a screen in a rather large bar in I've forgotten exactly. I think in Studio City. And I actually went with Lisa Langlois, and we went to see their final performance live, piped into that bar. It was very, very moving, a great night of music, and it was this room full of, I would say, 99% Canadians,
yes.
But in Los Angeles. And I was watching the same thing you were watching in Frederick.
Yeah. It's sad that that had happened. It's interesting because I saw them at the Aiken Center years ago, and it's the one concert I saw with my brother and his girlfriend, or one connection. We saw the Tragically Hip, and it was a great show. It was right after they released the album that had that song, "The Lonely End of the Rink."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that album had just come out, and they were promoting that, and they gave a great performance at the Aiken Center.
I saw them once. It was their very first American tour, and it was at the Whiskey A Go-Go. And I went down there and saw them perform and enjoyed them a great deal. I never quite figured out why they didn't find American success, but who knows?
I never understood that either. Yeah. No, I don't get to many concerts anymore. I did see Chantal Kraviazek again when she performed here, although it would have been helpful had she get up from the piano, and I didn't get very good pictures of her that night, so I kind of liked her first concert better, but still put on a good show.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. But I love the Canadian talent that's come out of here.
Oh, a lot of good talent.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of great talent, I mean, you've sent me a lot of great people, and some I've never heard of, and I'm really glad that I've gotten to know them on here. And of course, I guess we met, so to speak, through Lisa Langlois, who, of course, I've been a fan of for, it's been over 30 years, I know that, because I first seen her as Patsy in Class of 1984, which is a film that's celebrating its 35th anniversary this year, and I've interviewed 4 different people from that film, so that film's gotten some very good promotion through me, and loved her as Patsy in that film, and I was so happy, so overjoyed when you hooked me up with that interview. It was one of my favorite interviews I ever done.
Well, we'll get her back on the radio with you. She's been in Toronto the better part of the past year producing Moses Zamer. He's got a big annual event takes place there called Idea City.
Yeah.
And she's been producing that, and that takes place near the end of June. So she's up to her ears in a lot of hard work in putting that whole event together. So, so maybe after things calm down a little bit, she can give you a call.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know she's still in touch with Leslie Donaldson. I had her on last year, and I had Leslie on at the end of April this year. And Leslie was telling me that I was in Boston Pizza one night, and I just kept waiting for my food, and I noticed Leslie had a post on there, eating with great friends at such and such a restaurant in Toronto. And so I got smart, and I responded, I'm eating at Boston Pizza by myself. And she had told me she was probably with Lisa at that restaurant. And I said, boy, I wish I could have been with you too.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, I never been outside New Brunswick. Like, I've never really traveled. But it's weird with the whole airplane situation and airport security being as aggressive as they are. I don't know if I want to even chance that.
Yeah, I know.
I had an interviewee that just got back from Texas Frightmare. It was a horror film actress, and she said that they strip searched her, and I guess a sensor went off over something, and they found nothing. But she said it was kind of a humiliating experience, and she did not like that much. And I'm like, I don't think I would stand much for that.
Well, you can't really, if it happens, it may be humiliating, but you're working with some serious authority who aren't about to let you refuse to do it. So, you gotta. You're dealing with the law at that point, and you're dealing with federal law, so it's tough to mess with it.
I mess with it by not traveling.
That's one way. That's one way.
That's my way of messing with them. I just don't go anywhere. It would be nice to go places, but then I hear this stuff and I'm like, yeah. Yeah. But I don't think I ever asked this, but how did you meet Lisa Langlois?
Through a friend. He's a film producer and director out of Vancouver named Brent Fiddler, and Brent is he's got a fantastic movie that went around a lot of the festivals for a while on Edgar Allan Poe, and he's done many things, and he introduced me to her. Now, how I met him, I don't remember, but anyway, he introduced me to her, 10, 11 years ago, something like that.
Oh, you've only known her for that short a time?
Oh, I thought that was a long time.
Well, I've known who she was for 30 years. I'm
not saying I didn't know who she. I'm not saying I didn't know who she was. You asked me when I met her, and that's
okay.
10 or 11 years ago.
Okay. So you were familiar with her work before that?
Yeah.
Okay. No. No, yeah, it was through class of 1984 that it was like mid 80s that. So I know that she had had some bad experiences through dealing with other people, especially management or people on movie sets. So I'm really glad that she got connected with somebody like yourself who you treat your clientele really well.
So they tell me. She says she's never met I shouldn't say this myself, but she says she's never met a manager who pays attention to detail. And to me, it's I can't do it any other way. I just, most of my clients are or become my friends, and I can't. And even clients now that I may only, because now I do consulting, and sometimes my clients are only around for 3 to 6 months, and even in that time period, I want to make sure they're taken care of. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Yeah, I seen. I know. There's some films she did that she didn't care for, and I know some of those. I don't blame her. Yeah, I finally saw The Man Who Wasn't There, and I felt really bad for her in that movie. I know she hated it, and I can't believe they can't make an Invisible Man movie and do it right. I mean, why not have fun with the concept? Because Hollow Man didn't do it well either. But
yeah,
yep. It's interesting.
Well, I don't know. I guess that was done in days before the high technology, so I don't know what they were dealing with at the time. But it also depends on budgets and depends on.
Well, actually, that wasn't exactly what I was talking about with it. Like, I know there was situations involving nude scenes that she wasn't told this or told that.
Right.
Yeah. When you get people on a set that aren't being straight with you, yeah. But
you get tricked into stuff, and she did. Yeah, I know what you're referring to, but she's. But now she's busy in Toronto, and she's going to do some more acting. But right now she's involved in producing this event, and it's a good situation for her.
It's funny. Just the other night, I was interviewing somebody who I got him through Peter Foldy, and he knew who you was, and he knew who Lisa was. A director named Paul Lynch.
Oh, I know Paul. Yeah, sure.
I was talking to him for 2 hours the other night. Apparently, huh?
I kind of laughed. He's got a lot of stories. He's a good guy. I like Paul.
I like Paul too. It's interesting because I didn't know this, but he had told me that he had spent 6 weeks in Fredericton filming a movie with Bo Derek, and I'm like, okay. I remember when that Bo Derek movie was shot here. I didn't know he was one that shot it.
He's the one, yeah.
Yeah, there was a big fuss about her. Actually, my younger brother at the time was working at Mark's Work Warehouse. He's not there now, but he was at the time, and he said that Bo Derek came in there and turned a lot of heads.
Oh, I can imagine so.
But Paul Lynch asked me, he says, is the Daily Gleaner still in operation? And I said, well, we don't get it anymore, but I believe so. But, yeah, I had a great chat with him the other night. And yeah, he filmed up here. We were talking about Canadian film because he directed the original Prom Night. So, of course, it got talking about some of those Canadian films. I wish the government would get on board and so we can get more films shot here, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we used to get some really, really great stuff. I mean, we still get the Trailer Park Boys, and we still get the odd film. I just saw Bon Cop, Bad Cop 2 the other week, and, of course, the original one beat out Porky's as our highest-grossing film. Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen that.
Well, let's just say it's our bilingual comedy. It's half English, half French. I don't speak French, but the movie was still great.
Well, that's interesting. I have to take a look at that.
Yeah, it had Colin Fewer and Patrick Huard playing cops, and one's French Canadian. I guess there was this body that was impaled on a sign, and both ends of the body were on two separate jurisdictions.
Oh, that's a funny concept.
It's a very funny concept. So they just had a sequel come out just now. It's currently up at the mall, and I went and saw it. So it was a lot of fun. I like supporting stuff that's shot here, and I think a movie like Bon Cop, Bad Cop, I don't understand why they wouldn't release that in the States, because I can't see why it wouldn't do well.
Well, you hear that about all kinds of movies or recordings, why they don't get released and so on and so forth. A lot of it's to do with business, nothing to do with artistry. So they couldn't work out a deal or something silly like that.
Yeah. But, you represent Lisa, and I'm very grateful that I had her on my show. And then after that, I had you on, and I loved the story, especially the Janis Joplin story that you shared.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you brought my youngest guest I've ever had on here, a young lady named Leah Lane from Moonwaves.
Yeah.
She was a lot of fun to talk to.
She's fun, and she's changed bands. And I was just talking to her a couple of days ago. I'm actually, if you go to my website, she's right on the front page.
I actually, I seen a picture of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's changed bands, and they're about to release, I guess in a few weeks, going to release a new single, and they're going to tour. But I think they're going to stay in Texas and Oklahoma this summer, because when I first met this band, they were still in high school. Now they're in college. And in fact, in the middle of finals at the moment. So they're getting ready to tour once school ends, and then they go back to school in September. So it's they can't go too far just because of their need to be near home base when school starts again.
She was a lot of fun to talk to. I'll tell you, I never heard somebody that had so much joy in her voice. One of the part of the interview that I thought was funny, I had asked her what instruments she played, and she started mentioning various instruments. I remember she mentioned the drums, and I guess her boyfriend must have been sitting there, because she had said, my boyfriend's shaking his head. Doesn't play the drums well, I guess.
I guess. Don't know. I've never seen that. I've only seen her up front playing keyboards and singing, so I can't comment one way or the other. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Being a drummer myself, I can I'll support her.
Yeah, she had some great taste in music. We talked about a lot of. I was impressed that she liked a lot of bands from way before her time.
Oh, one of the things that attracted me was her favorite band, at least a couple of years ago, was Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah, Somebody to Love and White Rabbit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. She loves that band and loves Grace Slick. And I mentioned other artists to her, and she gets excited. This new band, she told me the other day, people are commenting that this new band sounds a lot like Concrete Blonde, which is a band that I used to manage. And Leah loves Jeanette Napolitano, who is the leader of Concrete Blonde. And so she just said, you're right. I like that. It's funny you mention that, because I like that about the Bangles when I first met them. And I first met them in the mid-'80s, or 83 or 84. But we would talk about the Beatles and a lot of earlier stuff that was going on before they were born at that point. So I like it when artists know their history, even if it wasn't directly related to them. But why they're doing something today is based on what somebody did 20, 30, 40, or even more years ago, and I respect an artist that can talk about I mean, when I was a kid, I was a rock and roll fan all the way, and loved Elvis and Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis, and then of course the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and so on and so forth. I also loved the Mills Brothers, and some of the other bands. There was not bands, but singing groups. I always liked harmony, so I always kind of, maybe it's through my father, but I just knew about a lot of these other artists that predated my being around. But still, I'll play them. I play the Mills Brothers every once in a while, even to this day. Some of their harmonies are amazing.
Yeah, and she brought up a lot of bands like the Smiths and the Pet Shop Boys. She even mentioned is like all the stuff come flooding back, because I've seen some movies within the past 5 years where the soundtrack just took me back. Rock of Ages and Everybody Wants Some are two movies that did that with me with their soundtracks, and yeah, she knows her stuff, and she's got a lot of enthusiasm for it too. So I really had a great chat with her, and I hope that she succeeds with it, does well with it.
Yeah, I think she will, but she's also going to school, so she's got to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're doing well. They got this new record coming and new video coming, and they're just keep on going.
It's funny you mentioned the Beatles. I saw a post on Facebook, and I didn't get this. I guess you mentioned a list of bands, and one of them you hadn't seen or whatever. And I saw you do that post, and I guess you said the one person you hadn't seen on that list was Billy Joel. You seen the Beatles in concert?
Yeah, I saw them at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. I was visiting Toronto. I was still in my teens, but I was on the road with a band from Ottawa called the Staccatos, who became five-man electrical band.
Okay.
And, we had played in Barrie, Ontario. I wasn't in the band, but I was driving around with them and such, and we just went down. We went to Barrie, Ontario, which is a couple of hours north of Toronto, and then the next day we went to Toronto, and I just in the day of the Beatles show, I just called to see if there were any tickets, and they said yes. I actually got tickets at the last minute. Don't remember what I paid, probably like $2.50 or something like that. But I sat way up in the rafters. I mean, I could barely see them, but it's still, I still did see them in performance.
Wow, that had to be quite iconic.
It's it's interesting I can say that. Where I really shock people is to say that I saw Buddy Holly live.
Oh, you saw Buddy Holly?
I saw him in Ottawa.
Oh, wow.
He was. It was a couple of weeks before he did the Ed Sullivan show, and Buddy Holly and the Crickets. I can't remember who else was on the show, except I think Paul Anka was on that show, and he's from Ottawa. And then there's who else might have been on that show? I'm afraid I don't remember, but I certainly remember seeing him and enjoying the hell of it. They were quite amazing. What I do is, I was young. I was probably preteen, but you could get tickets and sit behind the stage, and I remember the ticket was $1.
Okay.
And and you sat behind the bands actually faced away from you, and every once in a while they'd turn around and whatever. So I would sit behind, but I liked that because I would get seats right near the entranceway for the artists to come out from the dressing room, and they would come out right past me and walk up onto the stage. And so I'm sitting there watching, not necessarily in the same show, but I remember seeing the Everly Brothers and Buddy Holly and Fats Domino and Ray Charles and a lot of these artists. I didn't see Elvis, so Elvis played Ottawa, but my father wouldn't let me go see him. It was funny. But
Elvis was too out there?
I guess so. I don't know. He was. I guess he was the bad boy of rock and roll at that point, and he drove up to Ottawa. I'm sure the only non-American cities he ever played in were Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver.
And here my parents freaked out over Alice Cooper.
Well, I can understand that.
They freaked out over Alice Cooper and Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, I understand both of them. I don't think I'd freak out as a parent, but I kind of know that they were entertainers. But their persona was probably very scary to a lot of parents, and were absolutely meant to be scary. Elvis didn't mean to be scary, or didn't mean to be. He just did what he did. To him it was dancing. And years later he talked about how upset he was that preachers would be putting him down, and he hated that phrase Elvis a pelvis. He hated it. And but he was also I was listening. Actually, I heard him on the radio the other day. I heard one of his early songs, and I was knocked out by the fact that he was about 19 or 20 when he was first making his records, and he never sounded young. He always sounded like a mature singer, sometimes rocking, sometimes ballads, sometimes whatever. But he never sounded like he was a teenager, and I think a lot of people saw him as suggestive on stage, and he always said, I'm just moving with the music. I'm not. I didn't know him, so what do I know? I'm just going with what he said.
It's weird when people twist stuff, what people say, because I remember Pat Benatar, who was a musician I really respected, still love her. She had a song called "Hell Is for Children," and jeepers, there were people outraged over that song. And her husband, who plays guitar in her band, had said if they would just read the lyrics or listen to the lyrics, it's about child abuse.
Yeah. But people don't, People just, they read the headlines and they form opinions, and they don't really read the stories. And they just don't, especially nowadays in the kind of quick take sound bites. You get a little bits of news, and if you don't read about it, and the lyrics are the same. If you don't really read the lyrics, you don't necessarily get what the song's about. There's an artist I work with here who you've interviewed named Sheila Nichols, and Sheila has a song called "God," and in brackets, "Bill Maher, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater."
Yep, we talked about that. Yep. And
you look at that title, you can form all kinds of opinions. When you read the lyrics, they're very intelligent lyrics, and her concept of God and so on and so forth. It's not anti-God at all. But some people may look at that and just decide it's not play it because of the title or something like that. What can you do?
Yeah. Well, after Leah Lane, you brought to me Darryl Purpose. What was interesting about Darryl Purpose is he's the only person I've interviewed, at least so far, who's been interviewed at CHSR before.
Yeah, he knew the station.
Yeah.
By the way, he said, "Oh yeah, they used to play my music," and he named a guy there who used to play it. He named one of your guys. I don't know when.
David Perry. I've never met him, but I guess he was here. Like I started here in 2005, so I guess he was here then. But I don't know everybody even now that volunteers here, and I know people who were very familiar with him. So
yeah, well, Darryl knew him.
Yeah, Darryl said he used to play his music, and Darryl had an interesting story, and I gotta say, I don't know why they chose to make the movie 21 when his story was so much more interesting.
Yeah, they're both around L.A. Both scripts were being shot at the same time. I don't know what his script was called, but I've read his script, and it's a really interesting, well-written script. But somehow, for whatever reason, politics, money, who knows, they decided to make 21. And when they decided to make 21, they said, well, we're not going to make another gambling movie, so that's that. So his script never got made.
That's too bad, because judging from the interview, I could just visualize some of the stuff going on. I saw 21, not what I call a horrible movie, but nowhere near as compelling as what he was telling me with his story. Yeah. And what's that?
I agree, but like we said earlier, things happen behind the scenes that lead to decisions that we may not understand. You never know.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you sent me a video that Darryl Purpose had done, and I looked at that video. I really liked it, and I think he's a terrific performer. And it's funny
too. Video, Baltimore?
Yeah, Baltimore. That's it. From the is it From the Birds? The name of the album?
Still the Birds.
Still the Birds.
That I mentioned earlier, the movie about Edgar Allan Poe that Brent Fiedler made, the Vancouver fellow.
Okay.
And that I produced that video for Darryl, and Brent let us use a lot of footage from his movie. I envisioned it that way. I'd seen the movie, and I called him and I said, Darryl has this song Baltimore, which is all about Edgar Allan Poe. A lot of your footage would work beautifully in this video, and he gave us permission to use it. And I like the video too. I like it a lot. And it's a great song. It's a really great story about Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, I watched it a couple of times, and as you saw through an email, I kind of noticed a familiar face in a window.
Oh yes. A little Lisa Langlois mingling in behind the window there for a minute, for I think 10 seconds or something.
Yeah, my brother looked at me and he said, "Only you would spot that." You brought Lisa. What made you bring Lisa in on this?
Well, she was in the movie. She was actually in that movie that Brent produced and directed and starred in. Actually, he plays Edgar Allan Poe. And she plays, I don't know all the characters. I think she's his girlfriend in the movie.
Okay.
And so she's actually in the film, and we used a piece of the film, and we used a section where she appears in the window like that.
Oh, okay. I hadn't seen the movie, so I wasn't familiar with.
I think it's on YouTube. It's
okay.
I'll try to remember the name of it. It's. I'll get it. I'll get you the name of it. I'll think of it. But it's a beautiful movie. He did a great job shooting that movie, and it was all shot in Vancouver, as far as I know.
Yeah. No, that was a great video. You did a great job producing that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Darryl Purpose, wonderful. It's funny because between he and yourself and Lisa, I've interviewed 3 people connected with that video.
That's funny.
Yep.
One little video.
Just one little video. But you say Darryl Purpose does a lot of mountain climbing too, huh?
Well, he lives in the mountains. He lives in Nederlander, Colorado. He's way up where the air is very thin. And so he goes out hiking all the time. But he's walked across North America. He and a few other people walked across as a charity for something. He walked across North America from one side to the other. So, yes, he does a lot of hiking, you have to say.
Well, he's got more patience for that than me.
Yeah.
Well, after Darryl Purpose, you sent me Ronnie Cox, who, of course, was famous for playing one of the dueling banjos in the movie Deliverance. And I had a nice chat with him and, of course, talked to him about his music as well. You're not his manager, right?
No, I did work with him for about 10 years. We maintained a friendship, but I moved on from that a number of years ago.
Yeah, he gave an interesting interview with me. So you're not connected with him at all now, huh?
No, just as friends.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I know you mentioned to me to ask him about the John Huston reference in one of his songs, and yeah, he gave a little interesting response to that, and yeah, I had a nice little chat with him. And then after that, it was Peter Foldy. Now, Peter Foldy, I had back on again this year because he was doing some other projects, and he had sent me 4 or 5 of his 9 Live CDs. We had them given out here on the air, and he sent a signed copy to me. So I wanted to, since I hadn't heard the CD upon interviewing him, I thought, well, I'm going to ask him about some of the specific songs. And when I got in hold of him this year, he said, terrific. And he said he's got this play coming out called Penetration that he's doing, and some other things, and said he'd love to talk to me about that stuff. And I said, okay, come on back on. And how far back?
That play is as we speak. That play is debuting. I know this won't be heard by anybody for a while, but June 2nd in Los Angeles is when that play makes its premiere, and then it plays throughout the month of June here in L.A., and then I'm not sure what happens to it. But it's ironic that you mentioned that, because I don't think I'll be competition to you, but I am starting a radio show, and Peter Foldy is my first guest.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. Peter Foldy.
That's as we speak. I start that show next Monday, and it's on a network called L.A Talk Radio.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
So I'm having Peter on because he's premiering his play not long after that. So we're just going to get in there and talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the movie we were talking about earlier about Edgar Allan Poe that Brent did.
Yeah.
It's called Poe: The Last Days of the Raven.
Oh, okay.
And it's on YouTube. It's a nicely done movie.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. I'm always willing to check out any movie that Lisa's in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
she's in there.
Yeah, so you're starting your own radio show.
Yeah, it's actually part of another show. There's a show out of L.A. called Accent On.
Okay, I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been on it a couple of times. Some of my artists have been on it. I know the host. His name is Iona Europa.
I've actually listened to interviews she done with you and with Lisa and with Leah Lane.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so anyway, she suggested I come on with like maybe a 20 or 30-minute segment of the show. But now she said basically the shows I've been putting together, she's just going to hand over the hour to me. So it's just from 6 to 7 p.m. on Monday night. That's L.A. time, Pacific time. But then, of course, like your show, you can go on and click on it and listen to it later if you want.
6 to 7, that would be 10 to 11 here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So so that's happening. So the show is called Accent On. So my segment is called Accent on Gormley. At least for the moment, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
And, so Peter's my first guest, and eventually I'm going to have. I'm just talking to a lot of people, a lot of interviews, and so I'll have some of the same fun you're having doing interviews, which is what I started out doing. I actually used to do interviews when I was a teenager. I did some interviews for the CBC.
Okay. Yeah.
Ottawa.
Yep.
And interviewed various artists for the CBC as well as for the Ottawa Journal, and then eventually other publications. And then I had a radio show in Detroit when I lived there, and then I got into the record business, and that was that. So I'm kind of going back to my roots a little bit with this show.
Well, Mike, if you're ever having a slow week on your radio show, feel free. Yeah, I would love to go on your show as your guest.
It'd be fun. Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
I'll be more than happy to, and that would be 10 to 11 here. I'd have no problem doing that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
no problem. Do I just have that? Would be what night's that on?
Mondays.
Okay.
So we'll have to put it together, and I'll have to see what Mondays are open and that sort of thing. But that'd be fun to do.
I would I'd gladly do that. Yeah, all I'd have to do is make sure I got the studio space here, which shouldn't be a problem at 10 o'clock at night here. So, but I've done interviews here at 10 o'clock at night, so no big deal. But yeah, I'd be honored, to come on your show. But yeah, Peter Foldy, I've had him on here a couple times, and I think he's a delight. He put me in touch with Paul Lynch, which I thought was really cool of him, and talked about his movies and whatnot, and his connection with yourself. I guess he met you through Lisa.
Excuse me. I met Peter there's some Canadian film-related parties, and I don't know if she introduced me to him or I just met him at those parties, and she was in attendance. But she certainly was there when I first met him. Whether she did the introduction or was there, I don't remember. But it was in L.A., and it was the Canadian film community. It was probably sometime around the Academy Awards or something. Maybe the Canadian consulate had a party or whatever it was, but Peter was there. I think Paul was there as well.
Yeah, Paul Lynch. I talked to him the other night. What a great talker! He told me not to be a stranger. So I appreciate that. I like it when people have heard of the Maritimes here, because so far it's been kind of hit and miss with people that know where Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal is, but the Maritimes here in the New Brunswick. Not so many. I don't think any of my UK interviews have been familiar with where I am at all. But yeah, but Peter's a great guy, and he said that you guys are trying to do a movie. You want to talk about that?
I don't know what movie. He's trying to do a movie or what?
Well, I guess he was. I guess he had related that you and he was going to do a film.
Well, we're working on it. It's kind of early to talk about it.
Okay, no, that's okay.
It's called Andrew at the moment, and briefly it involves a young English guy coming to America to find his father. There's a whole lot more to it than that.
Okay. No, I won't. I won't jar you on that. But yeah, I told him. I said you got to put Lisa in it.
Yeah, I know. I keep telling him that too. So we'll have to see where it goes. He's busy with this play now, so we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. No, I had a couple of fun interviews with him. And then after that, you sent me a really, really interesting guy, Johnny Vados Hernandez. Now, I love Oingo Boingo.
Oingo Boingo just played the whiskey the other night. It was the first time in 40 years or something like that. They played the whiskey, I think just for the fun of it. But I didn't attend, but I heard it was quite a show. I
like the fact that guy likes to laugh. I'm going to tell you.
A great laugh.
He told. I had to ask him, of course, about the movie Back to School because I love that movie. And I remember him in it playing the drums with his pointed hair going right down the middle. And he shared some stories with me about Rodney Dangerfield and Sam Kinison, But I didn't know that he was in the movie From Dusk Till Dawn, which kind of a gross film, but he shared a story that made me laugh. He said he was on set, and he said everybody, he was sitting with Selma Hayek, and she's just this beautiful woman, and nobody else was sitting with her because people nervous around her, and because she's just a striking woman. And he had said that he was sitting there, and she said, she sounded like one of his relatives. All it was yada, 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 yada. She wouldn't stop. I remember that part of the interview. Wow, I thought that was hilarious. I just pictured him sitting there with her.
Yeah, well, John's not a flower on the wall. You know when he's in the room, so he can't. If he's laughing, you know he's laughing. I mean, he's a big guy, and he's not obnoxious. He's just there. You know, there's not. You know he's there when he's in the room, and and when he laughs, you start laughing when he laughs. You don't even know what he's laughing at.
Well, there's a lot of great Oinka Boinko songs. Of course, through Back to School, I'm very familiar with Dead Man's Party, and I think that's a great song. And I always remember when Robert Downey Jr. was shifting the record there, and the Paxton Whitehead out in his car, and the windshield cracks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was a great movie, and that was where I first saw Oinka Boinko. Just kind of like Class of 1984 was my introductory to Teenage Head, which, surprisingly, I actually had Gord Lewis from Teenage Head on my show last month.
Oh, was it last month? You told me we were going to have him. I didn't know when.
Yeah, I had him on, and what a treasure. He was in Ontario when I was actually advised by somebody I interviewed from right here in town that if I wanted to interview somebody from Teenage Head, he said, go for Gord Lewis. He said originally he'd go after the lead singer, but unfortunately the lead singer has passed away. So he said, go for Gord Lewis. So I took his advice, and I was just honored, and he liked being on Class of 1984, and I guess I got a Greatest Hits album coming out, and I love that song Little Boxes, which of course can be heard. The gang is back in that room there doing their prostitution and stuff. I like that song Little Boxes, and I can always hear that song playing. I play that song on here a lot, but had a great chat with him. But getting back, of course, to Oinka Boinko, that Back to School was where I discovered them, but they've had a lot of great songs. Some even featured in movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, 16 Candles. They featured, of course, Oinka Boinko tunes, so very popular in the movies.
They've been in several songs. What was another movie? FM, I believe they had a song on there, and wow, I've forgotten. Beverly Hills Cop. There's a song on that album.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a popular band and had a lot of good music, and then of course Danny got into composing for films directly, so he's Danny Elfman.
You know what? I didn't know this. I just found this out the other. Danny Elfman's married to Bridget Fonda.
Right. Yes, he is.
I always liked Bridget Fonda.
Yeah. No, I don't know. They got married quite a while ago. I think they've got a child too.
I always liked Bridget Fonda. Always been a fan. I always thought she had very sexy eyes. But it's funny because I just celebrated the 25th anniversary of Single White Female on here, which she was in, and I had those two little girls at the beginning of it on, the twins. I had the Materas twins on here.
Oh, great.
They were quite an interesting interview, and we talked about Bridget Fonda for a little bit and Jennifer Jason Leigh, but it's like I knew Bridget Fonda was married to a composer, but I didn't know till the other night it was Danny Elfman.
Yeah, that's him.
I guess we can say Danny's got good taste in women.
Yeah, always has.
Yeah. But he was quite a presence in Back to School. Had those great close-up shots. He had those crazy eyes.
Yeah, always did.
And then, of course, this year, I've been just flooded with interviews, and you sent me 3 great guests. And the first one, of course, was a lovely woman named Kimberly Haynes. I was happy to have her on. What a talent.
Oh, she's wonderful. I'm going to see her on Sunday night. She's doing it's various. It's 4 or 5 singer-songwriters are going to play a place here in Los Angeles on Sunday night, and I'm looking forward to that. She's great. And then about 2 weeks ago, she does these things called song circles.
Okay.
And you go to she played a very large. Basically, what it was a yoga center, but it was a very large room, and they set up on one side, and the audience sat on the floor like yoga people tend to do, and she sang for about 2 hours. It was beautiful, and then she had people in the crowd sing a cappella, and there were some people with these incredible voices who were singing her songs.
Now, where did you discover her at?
I met her just through a guy in town here. I don't know where he knew her from, but he told me about her, and I had lunch with her and him a couple of years ago. But she wasn't. I don't think she'd even made her album yet, or was working on it at the time, so she wasn't quite ready. And then when she was ready to, with the album out and ready to do some things, she called me up, and we again had lunch, and with her and a producer, Vito Gregori, and decided to work with her on her career, and I'm still doing that. I'm still helping her out, and she's started touring and played L.A. and went through Arizona, going to Europe during the summer, and starting to work on a second album, I think, in the fall. It's a very rewarding experience.
Yeah. She was a great guest. She's got a nice kind of folky sound. You know who she reminds me of? She reminds me of a Canadian singer that I've actually seen live named Sarah Harmer. Are you familiar with Sarah Harmer?
I certainly know her name.
Yeah. She sang a song called Almost. And I actually met Sarah Harmer when she performed here, and she was quite delighted that I played her music. But that was kind of who Kimberly Haynes put me in mind of.
That's interesting.
Yeah, kind of a little folky sound. Maybe not quite like Chantal Kreviazuk. Chantal's kind of more of a pop feel to her, but kind of folky. And and I mean that in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I understand the connection. What I like, there are several tracks on Kimberly's record that I like, and one that I kind of passed over at first and then went back to, and now I really like, is her version of "You're the One That I Want."
Okay. Olivia
you know,
Newton-John. Yeah.
Olivia Newton-John recording from Greece.
Yep.
And I don't know why I passed over it, but I went back and listened to it some more, and that was one of my favorite tracks. And I've recently, Olivia's publicist is a good friend of mine, so I'm waiting to hear back if she likes it or not. He sent it on to her to take a listen to.
It would be. I had somebody ask me if I could get Olivia on my show, and I was like, "Well, I don't know about that, but I've had 2 people from the movie Grease on my show. I've had Barry Pearl on here who played Duty, and I had Antonia Franceschi, who was one of the backup dancers from Grease, and she had a speaking part in the movie Fame. She was a ballet dancer. Yeah, she was wonderful. She was actually my first UK interview. And I didn't know she was involved with Grease until, because I got her because I liked her in Fame. I didn't know until she sent her stats and stuff to me that I found out she was a backup dancer in Grease. But when I found out, I knew exactly which backup dancer she was. I didn't even have to watch the movie to know where she was, because there was only one cute one. But Olivia Newton-John has done a lot of great movies. She even did a movie here in Canada a few years ago called Score, a hockey musical, which was an odd little movie, and I was surprised that she was in it.
Really? I kind of remember hearing that name, but I don't think I ever saw it.
Yeah, it toys around with the idea of Yeah, are you familiar with that Canadian movie Goon?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's almost like a musical version of that.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah, about violence in hockey and how this guy wants to train the players and how to be lovable. Of course, hockey's all about people going to watch violence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an interesting twist to it all.
It was a very corny movie, but I got to admit, I like the idea behind it. And of course, Olivia Newton-John was in that. So, yep. I guess it's a Canadian film, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah. What else she's doing? I mean, she lives in Las Vegas. I guess she performs there. I don't know.
Yeah. After Kimberly Haynes, you sent me a young actor from here in Canada whose interview hasn't played out here yet. But that could be for his benefit, considering he was in a movie called Battle of the Sexes, which has, Yannick Collin. Now, there's an interesting guy.
Yannick, yeah, he's actually about to shoot a video this weekend, and that's being directed by a friend of mine, Melinda Brown.
Okay.
And he's doing that. He's still in L.A. doing various things, and he too is periodically on Iona's show Accent On. He does a once a month kind of report on that show about things going on in LA. He's keeping busy.
Yeah, it's funny because when you sent me the stats on him and stuff in the write-up, I knew about Battle of the Sexes before you sent me that, because I got a big Emma Stone crush, so I kind of knew that movie was coming.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm actually looking forward, but now when it comes out, I'm going to have to look for him in it.
Yeah, that's right. He'll be in there somewhere.
Yeah. But that movie's on my radar for this year. So.
He's from Quebec. He's from Quebec, and he's been down in the States for a couple of years and just learning his craft and picking up jobs here and there, and he's people are really getting to enjoy his work and getting to know him.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of promise. He certainly, I know he's worked, he said, in Criminal Minds. He told me it's an interesting story about this, the name escapes me now, this hip-hop artist that he liked. Who was that now?
Oh, Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, that's it. That's right. Yeah, he enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So hopefully he'll get to even work with him.
He'd love to. I know that. He's a big fan. And he's got to know him, so he's kind of thrilled about that.
Yeah, I got to know him well, too. And I know some people say, don't meet your heroes, but sometimes, it works out. Like him meeting Machine Gun Kelly, I guess it was a good hookup,
Yeah, they were on the set of something. I don't know where he met him, on the set of some movie or TV show. I can't remember.
Yeah. So does he have any movies other than Battle of the Sexes? Do you know of anything like, how am I trying to word this, where he's going to have some stronger roles, huh?
Anything coming up, you mean?
Yeah.
I know he's worked on a couple of things, but we've been concentrating on some PR and some stuff for him, and that's why he's doing this video this weekend.
Okay.
I don't think he has. I know that there are 2 in the works, but I don't know he has an agent. I don't know if the deal's precisely done or not.
Okay. Well, the latest person that you sent me, actually right at the beginning of this month, May 1st, was Sheila Nichols. And it's interesting, because she had done a song in the movie High Fidelity, on the High Fidelity soundtrack. I love that movie.
Oh, yeah, and it's a good movie, definitely.
Yeah, I saw that movie back in 2000 at the Twin Cinemas here, which is no longer open. Actually, it closed down in 2000. And that movie made a big impression because we got here a record store downtown called Backstreet Records, and of course you have to go up a set of stairs to get to it, but the record store in that movie reminds me of Backstreet Records. The same kind of look, the same kind of atmosphere, and the same kind of spirit. And I love that movie for various reasons, and that was one of them. And I think it's one of John Cusack's best performances.
Definitely. And it's also kind of a breakthrough role for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, and definitely for Jack Black. That really lifted him off the screen.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
And Lisa Bonet did a wonderful singing job in it as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good film. Yeah, Sheila had a song on there.
Yeah, and I know I played the soundtrack on here. I played a couple of tracks on, because I usually pick a couple of tracks off each CD, you know, and I know I picked that opening track whenever he's, you first hear him, that song by 13th Floor Elevators, You're Gonna Miss Me. I play that. But I had completely forgotten that she had a song on that CD, and I was like I don't keep the CD covers with me when I bring my CDs. I just get them all in this big, bunch of sleeves in this case. So I just happen to know what number the tracks I usually play are. So I was like, it just kind of grabbed me that she had a song on that soundtrack album.
Yeah, no, she was. She's been around for a while, and she's doing this show in L.A. Her album actually doesn't come out till September, but she's doing some shows in L.A. and just kind of introducing things, and getting out there. And then she's going to do a big CD release party in September in L.A.
Are you talking about the CD that's the bunch that you sent me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's not out yet. That's not out until September.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, we're gonna do a giveaway on those. I got to get in touch because I don't do phone stuff on my show, like in terms of live stuff. I'm going to do with her CD what I did with Peter Foldy's. We got a morning guy here that's really good with this stuff, and he's going to give it a listen. He'll grade it and whatnot, and he's going to do a contest with the CD. So, yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, well, it's not out. They're shooting a video on it in a few weeks. I mean, you've got it well ahead of time.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, and I can that'll be something I can play on here too. I'll definitely promote that. Yeah, I love the I should say what are they, braids or dreadlocks she's got on?
I think dreadlocks.
I don't even know what the difference is. I know my head can't have them. But
well, no, she's got it's more dreadlocks, definitely. She's a very interesting woman.
How did you get connected with her?
I met her through a fellow named Dave Stringer. Dave Stringer, I don't know if you know much about kirtan music, but it's kind of it's a chanting, and he tours the world. In fact, he's in Europe right now, and he tours the world doing the kirtan music and records and so on and so forth. And he's got a very, very strong following, and she sings with him periodically. And I know him, and he introduced me to her.
Okay. Yeah, and
I'll have you talk to him sometime. He's a very interesting guy. He's very. He started out 15 years ago. Kirtan music has a certain spirituality to it. It's not religious per se, but he's a lot of the followers. I don't know how to put it. They don't go to a trance or anything, but it's a very joyous kind of sort of a gospel sound to it. And he started 15 or more years ago just in a yoga studio in Santa Monica, California. And he was playing there all the time, and he gained enough popularity that he literally tours the world. He just came back from Australia and New Zealand. He's in Europe now. He's going to China for the second time in September.
Okay.
So it's quite an interesting person as well as interesting music, and he's been doing that for, and he's opened that world to a lot of artists that where they can play.
Oh, fantastic! How many people do you? I know I've looked at your webpage, but how many people do you consult for? Are you still a manager to these people?
I'm both, but it's a consultancy situation, and some of them have been with me a couple of years, and some are with me just a few months at a time. So it rotates, I mean, there may be somebody with me for a period of time, and then whatever I was asked to help with is done, and move on to somebody else. But I usually have 4 or 5 clients at one time.
Okay. Who's the client you've had the longest? Would it be Lisa?
It'd be Lisa, and it would be after that would be Leah from Texas. We talked about Leah Lane.
Okay.
I've been working with her for a couple of years now. In fact, I just last night was with the guy who introduced me to Leah, and his name is David Rizkin, or David Z. And
okay.
David, his brother Bobby Z was a drummer for Prince and the Revolution, and David was in the studio with Prince almost his entire career.
Oh, wow.
So, engineer. And he also produced Fine Young Cannibals, and he's a very accomplished fellow. So I was with him last night, and then and along with him was a fellow named Owen Husney. And Owen, you could say, discovered Prince. Prince and the Revolution used to practice in his basement before they ever got a record deal. And he was Prince's first manager for quite a while, and had a lot to do with that whole Minneapolis music scene getting going. So he and David were at this function last night, and I was chatting with them. It was and decided this time I was going to get my picture taken with them, so I did.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah. So David produced Leah's music and introduced me to her.
Okay. Wow. So
it's just all it's who you know and who you schmooze with, and somebody just says, hey, I want to give you a call. I might need some help with something, and it's an ongoing sort of thing. It's a rotating door. Some are inside for a couple of years, and some are inside for 3 months. It just depends on what the particular artist needs. I started working with Darryl Purpose last year, and the idea was to work with him from January to May. We ended up working almost the entire year together. So it depends. And then he went off the road, and he was looking at making another record. He didn't need to do any marketing or anything anymore. So when he picks things back up again, I'll probably start working with him. So it just keeps going like that.
Okay. And you're still working with Peter Foldy, and you're still, and of course you're working with Sheila Nichols and Yannick and Kimberly Haynes.
Yeah, Yannick Collins. Gonna shoot that video with Yannick this weekend, which he's writing. And doing a radio show, and I just a lot of different things. I actually the play that Peter's doing, Penetration, that starts June 2nd. I'm executive producer of that.
Okay.
So you got to keep busy somehow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So yeah, this has been quite the stretch. It's been it's been 2 years, I think. I started doing these interviews, and it was April of 2015. So, and I really appreciate all these talented people that you bring my way, and I hope you'll continue to do so. I don't think you've heard any.
I'll talk to Dave Stringer when he gets back from Europe. I think you'll find him fascinating, and in the meanwhile, you can check him out. It's just, I think it's probably davestringer.com or something like that. But and he's all over YouTube. And I honestly hadn't heard his name, but in that circle, he's a star, and flies all over the world. It's quite impressive.
Yeah. And if the Bangles ever get something started again, send them my way. I'd love to have them on.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. They ever going to do a reunion?
Well, they play every once in a while, but to my knowledge, they've got maybe 1 or 2 dates this year. I mean, they're not going to tour like they used to tour. They're just scattered and doing different things. But every once in a while, they do get together and perform, and not necessarily just in L.A. They do get around. So it's up to, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they don't tour, but I saw them play 4 or 5 years ago. It was last time I saw them play, but I do bump into them at events around town periodically.
I think they're one of the best female groups that's ever gotten together. I think the music's terrific.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now the radio thing. I know you were connected with. Did you say her name was Ilona?
Iona, Ilona, Europa.
Oh, okay. That's how you got connected to do the radio show, huh?
Right. She found me on LinkedIn. I just got him on. I'd never met her, and she just on LinkedIn. She sent me a note and said, "I'd like to have you on my show," and that's how I met her. And then I said, "Well, I've got these artists you might like to have on your show," and she said, "Sure." And then she would say, "Well, if your artist comes on the show, you come on with them." So she wouldn't necessarily do the interview. She'd have me on to do the interview, and now that's growing into this segment called Accent on Gormley, and so I'm basically bringing in guests and doing not necessarily my clients, and just different people. In July I'm gonna have a fellow on named Danny Goldberg, who's written a new book called In Search of the Lost Chord, 1967, and the Hippie Idea. It's the name of the book. But he's an old friend of mine, but he's an amazing guy who used to run Led Zeppelin's label and used to be president of Mercury Records, and he manages Steve Earle, used to manage Nirvana.
Okay.
Quite a career. So I heard that he had a book out, so I shot him an email and said, "Hey, you want to come on the show?" And he said yes. So different people. I'm going to have different people I know mainly from music business, but not always. I'm quite interested in. I consider myself a sugar addict.
Okay.
I crave sugar. Like, I guess people. I don't do drugs, but that's my drug, and I've got myself off it considerably this year. But I'm gonna have a doctor on that talks about sugar addiction. Yeah, so it's going to be different things. But my background is mainly music, and entertainment, so it's probably going to be a lot of that. But there'll always be something other than that. I mean, I mentioned Danny Goldberg, who's got quite a background in music, but he also was president of the ACLU, and he was he's got a varied background and a lot to talk about. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, you mentioned
L.A Talk Radio. I think is probably latalkradio.com, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. You mentioned you get off sugar.
Not probably 100%. It's hard to do in this world to be off at 100%. But I've lost about 15 pounds since the beginning of the year, and I was a pre-diabetic, and my numbers were getting up to where you become diabetic. And once you hit that number, there's no going back. So I was getting awfully close. So I went on a fairly strict diet and a lot of exercise, and I got the numbers way down. I'm not in danger anymore. But it's also just sugar. It's just bad for you. It's bad for you, and I grew up on it, and people laugh when I say the phrase sugar addict. People think I'm joking.
Oh, I don't think you're joking at all, because I've been kind of wanting to cut back on it as well.
Well, what I do is cut back on starch, and all this stuff turns to sugar. So it's hard to avoid sugar. You can't eat fruit without, getting some sugar, and you can't lots of things. But there are a lot of sugar-free foods out there that taste great, and I'm finding that out.
Like what?
They say sugar-free, but now they've got, and they're not. Sugar's not replaced by chemicals. It's so there's a lot of sugar-free foods out there, but you don't eat anything white. You don't eat rice. You don't eat potatoes. No bread. You don't eat anything. The easy way to go is don't eat anything white. And my form of exercise is walking. And if you walk 30 to 45 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week, that you accomplish it. You don't have to do the strenuous, sweat it out in the gym stuff. You can just go for a walk.
Yep.
Put a little power into it, but go for a walk. And the easy thing is to cut out eating anything white. And I'm telling you, it works. It's worked. This is the second time. I put myself through this about 15, well, maybe a little less, 12 years ago. And at that point, I lost 35 pounds. And then I let it slide the last couple of years, and my pre-diabetic numbers were going up. So I went back on the very same diet, and I lost so far about 15 pounds. And my numbers I'm totally out of danger. I just have to keep watching it, but I'm out of danger in terms of diabetes. That's all it took.
You don't eat fruit?
Oh, I love fruit. Yeah, I do eat fruit, but and there is sugar in fruit. So I'm not saying that I'm the processed sugar, the candy, the sweets, the cakes, the pies, all that stuff that I love. That stuff I cut out.
Okay.
I eat fruit.
Yeah, because I eat fruit too. Fruit's supposed to be good for you.
It is, but there's sugar. In most fruit, there's sugar.
Yeah.
And some of them more so than others. Bananas are really bad for you. I used to love bananas. They're really bad for you if you don't want to eat sugar. But I have to eat fruit and vegetables and such. So you're going to encounter fruit. I mean, you're going to encounter sugar in almost whatever you eat nowadays. But if you, at least for a period of time, you cut out the starch and you cut out as I say, anything white. That's just the easy rule to follow. And just walk. Just go for walks for 30, 40 minutes, 3 or 4 days a week. And it's a slow process, but over a couple of months, you could lose 10 pounds. And like I said, when I did this a number of years ago, I lost 35 pounds. I lost so much weight then that my friends were saying, "Look, you look like you're sick. You're getting so skinny. You look like there's something wrong." So I went back on it a little bit, and then sugar is an addiction. So there I was back in the sugar. So this year I forced myself to cut back on it, and I'm going to stay cut back on it. And there are ways to do it. But it's difficult at first, quite a craving at first.
Yes.
But after a while, you don't crave it as much. Craving never goes away, but there are alternatives, and you can do it. But anyway, I'd like to have somebody on my show to talk about that and different things like that.
Just a curiosity, what do you eat?
I eat a lot of fish.
Okay.
And I eat meat. I'm not a vegetarian. I eat chicken and I don't eat a lot of red meat, but I never did. I like it, but I don't eat it very much. So vegetables, a lot of veggies with fish or chicken or whatever it might be. I mean, you can eat almost anything, and that's another aspect is us folks in North America tend to overeat.
Yes.
And, the idea is sit down and have a big meal, which is just not good for you. You should eat smaller portions.
Yes.
Excuse me. I don't mean to preach here, but you
No. I'm actually taking this in for myself because when I go to my brother's apartment on the weekend, we sit down, we watch videos and stuff like that. I bring a thing of vegetables with me, carrot, celery, and green pepper, and I'll bring a dip or something to have with it. And for something a little sweeter, I'll bring a yogurt,
Mm-hmm.
But
those have sugar in them.
Yogurt.
Dip and everything. Just read the label. You'll see on the label how much sugar's in those things, and it's shocking sometimes. But there are chocolate bars that taste great that have no sugar or have maybe 1 or 2 grams of sugar.
What chocolate bars?
Yeah, and you'll call them chocolate bars. It's not real chocolate, but they're healthy. They're not full of chemicals. There's stevia, which is a form of sweetener now that is based on a plant.
Okay.
It grows in the forest, and it's as sweet as sugar, but it is not so deadly like sugar. Sugar's deadly. It's deadly. It's causing a lot of our health problems these days, and I sound like it, but I don't get on a soapbox about it too much. But I do want to let people know. I say I'm a sugar addict. I still get people thinking I'm making a joke, and I'm not.
Actually, I find this interesting because I've been kind of watching stuff I eat too. I'm not overweight by any means. I'm quite skinny actually, because I do a day job where I'm lifting heavy bottles. But still, there are times I'm like, what could I be doing to eat more healthier? So yeah.
Well, it's out there, and it doesn't have to taste bad or taste bland or anything. There's a lot of you do have to do a little research. And I have a couple of friends who are quite educated in this sort of thing, and they've helped me. They've introduced me to some foods that are quite enjoyable, but much healthier and don't involve sugar. So it's just getting back from the sugar. It's amazing how much better you feel. So it's worth giving it a try.
Okay. Well, great. Well, you know what? This has been a lot of fun having you come back on here, and I wanted to do something different tonight. Talk about all the wonderful guests that you brought my way, and hope you continue to do so. I'm actually quite excited that you get this. Did you say it's going to be called Accent on Gormley?
Yeah, the show itself is called Accent On.
Okay, Accent On.
Yeah, so you go to L.A. Talk Radio,
Mm-hmm.
and then you click on Accent On. And then within that show, and it won't be there yet because I haven't started yet, but it's Accent On Gormley will be in that show. And I'm not doing every single show. I'm on the first and third Mondays of each month. And so it'll be fun. As we speak, I'm starting it. Whenever this airs, it may have been on already, but I'm looking forward to it. And Peter Foldy will be my first guest.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Peter will be a great first guest. When's your interview with him going to be on now?
Next Monday, as we speak, next Monday is May 22nd.
Okay.
But it'll be archived, so you can go back to it. Just go to the same.
You'll have a posting on Facebook about that, huh?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I've listened to you and Lisa and you and Leah Lane on there before, so I'd be open to listening to that.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, if you ever have a slow night, I'd be honored to come on your show if you have any questions.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out when I get to a calendar.
Yeah. And of course, looking forward, hopefully maybe this summer or fall, whenever, have Lisa back on. I'm still very happy she did the Doubtfire Challenge too. So I know on her birthday I made a donation again to Single Moms Planet as well.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So I hope she's doing well, and hope she gets back on the movie screen again.
That'll happen eventually too. She has an agent, and now she's based in Toronto. She'll probably be doing more Canadian work.
She coming back to L.A.?
It doesn't look like it. It looks like she'll be back, and she's been back 2 or 3 times, but she's living in Toronto at the moment, and her son has moved up there with her, and he's going to school there, and it sounds like they're settling in a little bit.
You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see her and Leslie do another movie together.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. I know Leslie shot me a message one night when I commented on the restaurant thing. She said, "You got to come to Toronto. We'll take you out to dinner. My treat." And I've said, "Yeah, the problem is me getting to Toronto." They're an hour behind. Huh?
Because you don't travel much.
Well, right now I can't. I got a family member that's still active but very ill, and with the business that my day job is in, if I'm not doing it, nobody else can. So I can't just take time off for it. And yeah.
I know how you feel. I got so much going on here in L.A. that I want to get up to Ottawa for the Canadian 150th anniversary, and it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get out of town. It's a drag, but I'd still like to get back to Ottawa every couple of years anyway, no matter what's going on. So, but I'm stuck here for a while, just various things happening.
Yeah.
But, being stuck in L.A. isn't a bad thing.
No. You miss having Lisa out there?
Pardon me?
Do you miss having Lisa there?
Well, we talk all the time and FaceTime and so on, and we were scheming a couple of things. I'm gonna get up there at some point. It's just that there's so much going on. And she's of course very tied down in Toronto. So, yeah, it's different having her gone, but we stay in touch all the time.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to having her back on, and look forward to any other of these interesting, intriguing people that you send my way too. You sent me some good people, and I always appreciate you send me a little write-up on them too. That gives me some pointers to go with as well. So that always helps. Sure. Yeah.
Well, we'll find some more for you.
Absolutely.
For you and your audience.
For me and my audience, yep. Well, just be very, very patient about when this airs out. But like I said, anytime there's somebody you send me that's got something planned that you need out at a specific time, you let me know. Like I said, I'll get Sheila Nichols out hopefully this week, and I'll get that out to you. So, it'll be a while before that one goes on YouTube, because I always put them on YouTube in order. But
sure.
But it will play on here, so you'll have that for that launch or whatever she's.
All right. Well, we'll tell people to tune in.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Great to talk to you.
Yes. Before you go, I was wondering if I could get you to plug for my show.
Sure.
Yeah. Just state your name and say you're listening to Python's Paradise, which is the name of the show, with Greg Gilbert in New Brunswick, Canada.
Ooh, I better write that down.
Everybody has to write it down.
This is Mike Gormley calling from Los Angeles, having a great talk with Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise. Take a listen. It's a good show.